to left center field. Back it goes and gone. The 0-2 pitch. He struck him out swinging at 101. Swinging a drive, left field and deep. Back it goes and gone. And the Twins walk it off again.
It is that time with 9:30 or a little after on a Friday. We get to visit with Cory Provus, the voice of the Minnesota Twins. His appearance is brought to us each and every week by Welton's Tire Service. We appreciate that. We got our computer stuff all worked out so we can see him. I know he was all dressed up last week. It's great to see you, bud. And after getting back home, and you mentioned it, this is like your first time back home in what, like a month?
Yeah, almost a month. So this is an off day, and I have so much to do. This is kind of like, my wife was great, though. She's like, hey, because my kids are still on spring break. She's like, I got to plan it for the kids. You can rest. You can just chill out. I said, yeah, that's not going to happen, but I appreciate it. But no, I've got a lot on my plate today, but it's great to be home. It was great to sleep in my bed last night for the first time. And since early, mid-March, whenever it was. So it was great to be home and great to be back at the ballpark. Target Field looked great.
All right, so the range of emotions of baseball is wild. From the game on Monday, where the Twins go to 0-4, you're going back to the hotel. What are you thinking about what the baseball team is at?
I mean, it could not have started worse.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the St. Louis, outside of Bailey's game, when he was clearly sick. I mean, I think we got word of that before the game, but we didn't know how bad it was. And then when he spoke after the game that the guy was, on IV on Friday, it all added up because his command was poor and his velocity was down. So that made a lot of sense. The St. Louis games were competitive. Those were close games, right? And then seeing the game on Monday was like, the White Sox, historically the worst team in baseball history,
Right.
and a team the Twins dominated. And then to see that script flip in the way that it did. And I thought Chris Paddock, I think we even mentioned his name last week. I said, Chris Paddock was, to me, he looked great in camp. And then velocity was way down, and he was getting just shellacked every pitch. I don't know if he was tipping anything, but the quality of contact the White Sox were making was pretty substantial. So yeah, it was like, what is going on here? But then they come back. They're down 3-0 on Tuesday and have a great come from behind win. And then I wasn't at the game Wednesday, but just, for kind of following along, it seemed like that was one of their more complete games, and probably was their complete game of the season. Pablo pitched great,
Yeah.
timely hitting, some power, and felt pretty good about the week, considering how it started. How it ended was much better. And then yesterday, Paul Molitor, when he was managing, Dom, he hated to tip his cap. He hated doing it. But he did realize there were certain days he had to do it. And I think what we saw yesterday was one of those days. Hunter Brown is going to be in the Cy Young race this year. He is a dude. He is a stud. And he was clearly the best player on the field yesterday. So they lost 5-2. But to me, tip your cap.
Yeah.
That guy in the mound for Houston was awesome.
I go back to the game Tuesday. It's 3-0 there in I think the sixth inning, right? I mean, you're staring at, holy cow, what is going on? And just then it was a spark to get on base. And then finally, I heard you mention it, finally the floodgates opened in that sixth inning where they scored 5 runs, that it felt like the tension of the first 4 games of the season finally went away.
And it all began with 2 outs.
Yeah.
And it was a walk to Byron Buxton, who doesn't walk very often. Buxton's walk rate is well below league average. So he walked, and I think there was another walk to Larnach, and then all of a sudden, things started happening here a little bit, and Jeffers and Julie and Miranda, and then it was like, okay, here we go. And then, but seeing the faces inside the dugout and seeing these guys cheer for one another, and we're a good team. This lineup is going to produce here. The quality of contact was fantastic, and people on that wonderful social media platform, which I'm pretty much unplugged from now. I don't love it.
Good for you.
I really don't like it very much. I'm still on there, but very rarely. Kept reminding me, stop talking about the quality of contact. They're not, but this is what players swear by. This is why they trust the process, and they don't want to freak out and change everything because they're hitting the ball hard. They're not getting the results. Well, at some point, they're going to even out a little bit. And Miranda's go-ahead would turn out to be the game-winning swing. That was doinked into right field and 2-run score, and that's going to happen. So it was great to see just the expressions and the guys cheering and pulling for one another with the way they came back on Tuesday night.
Matt Wallner in the leadoff spot. Can you give us the lowdown on the decision that Rocco did with that, of why Wallner is the leadoff hitter right now?
So we're learning some tells with Rocco about spring training lineups. And I go back to 2019. And when the Twins saw a lefty in spring training games, he had Mitch Garver bat leadoff.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're like, huh, this is interesting. And maybe it's something he's trying out. It's a spring training look, what have you. And then Rocco was pretty sheepish about it when you asked him, hey, is Garver? He's like, I don't know. It's spring training. Well, Garver was hitting leadoff against lefties quite often. And then all of a sudden, Matt Wallner this year's like, oh, in the leadoff spot. Yeah. I know his on base percentage is a strength, but he strikes out at a very high rate. So there's swing and miss in there. But he gets hit by pitches at an obscene,
that's true.
obscene rate. And that plays your on base percentage. So they didn't want to put Eddie Julian back up there just yet. Willie Castro can do it, but they like some speed, I think, at the bottom. And so Wallner got a look. And then you ask around about it down in spring training and you think about it. Are there any comps across the game? And we showed this yesterday, Dom. One of the comps is Kyle Schwarber with the Phillies.
Okay.
And now you will see some differences, though. Schwarber doesn't strike out nearly the same rate as Wallner does. But they both barrel up the ball. They both can hit bombs. They both make solid contact when they put it in play. I think there's something to that I think they're trying to look at this like a Kyle Schwarber-esque approach. And again, Wallner, he gets hit by pitches. Now, I think that's a scary thing to just constantly bet on.
Yeah.
Because, and I get it, here's a kid that worked at a dairy farm as a kid in Forest Lake. He gets hit a lot, and Rocco says he's got dinosaur bones, but this time of year, you get hit on your hand, you get hit on your wrist, there's a lot of small little bones in there that can break. So thankfully he's avoided that. But if you're just always banking on the fact that, hey, he gets on base because he gets hit a lot, at some point, one of those is going to do some damage and the guy's going to be out 2 months.
Well, especially, you always notice, Corey, this time of year when it's colder out, that guys tend to have that happen and it's out for a while. More often than not, I noticed that in April and in early May.
Yeah, if it's a non-displaced fracture, happened to Andrew Benintendi with the White Sox. He got hit by a pitch on his wrist. He had a fracture, and he was able to come back on opening day, but it was about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. If you break a bone like that, it's going to be about 6 weeks. And so, I don't think we'll see Wallner hitting leadoff against lefties. And, Byron Buxton was in that role against Martin Perez, and no lefties the rest of this series. So I think Wallner's going to get a look here for a while. But then somebody gets hot. If Eddie Julian gets hot, maybe that changes here at some point. But for the time being, I think Matt Wallner is going to be in that role more times than not.
Is the under over for you asking, or people asking you about Royce Lewis's return, like at 100 a day? Where's the status of Royce Lewis right now?
Sadly, no. And I think because we've been down this road sadly so many times, Dom, that it's like it doesn't come up. No. And it's going to be a little bit. I mean, he has a bad hamstring. I mean, he did some damage on that hamstring. So I hope May, he's not going to be playing at all in April. I hope we get to mid-May, that we get some better news. But in the meantime, I hope Brooks Lee is back in the next couple of weeks, because I thought when Royce went down, there was no path for Brooks Lee to be on the team, because he's in that group that if Deshaun Kersey's not there, Austin Martin not there, that they're good players, but they can be on the team without everyday playing time. I think Brooks's potential is so much higher in some ways that he's viewed as he's only up here if there's everyday playing time. And I thought, okay, when Royce got hurt, there you go.
Right.
There was a spot for Brooks to play third base and maybe some second. You have a switch hitter in there. There was going to be at-bats for him if that played out. But then when his back flared up again, he said it's not the same as it was last year. But, the guy's 24 and he's had some back problems now. That's not a good sign. And I hope that gets rectified here soon. But I think Brooks is back. He should be back much, much sooner than Royce Lewis.
Last thing before we break here, about the signing of Harrison Bader, who Bader played for the Mets last year, was a really good contributor on a team that obviously went to the postseason and had some pretty good success. Has that even surprised the Twins in what he's done in the first week of the season?
I think so. I don't think anybody had this guy as the clubhouse leader in home runs after
Right.
7 games. I mean, that I didn't see, but I like him down at the bottom of the lineup there. There's some power down there, and he's doing it with guys on base. He's not hitting solo home runs. He's got, I think, 3 homers, and 2 of the 3 are 3-run homers. The other one's a 2-run shot. So that's great. So yeah, he's been fantastic. What's been impressive, and Justin has pointed this out a couple of times, is his footwork is just perfect with how an outfielder should play, getting behind the ball, anticipating, reads, anticipating bounces. He doesn't have Matt Wallner's arm,
Mm.
so he has to make up for it in other ways, and just his anticipation about where a ball is most likely going to go and how to best get there to help minimize, because I can't get there with arm strength, but I can get there with technique, setting up, barehanding balls, getting it back in. So we've seen a couple of times now already where singles or doubles are into singles because of how he's played them off the wall and his anticipation and where he's supposed to be and getting his feet set in the right way. So he checks a lot of boxes in ways that unless you see him every day, you wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yeah. We'll break. We come back. Much more with Cory. We'll talk about how the broadcasts have gone and look ahead to the last 2 games with the Astros as they come up this weekend. Back with Cory Provus, voice of the Twins, here on Hot Mic right after this. Wrapping up our first hour, back with Cory Provus, voice of the Twins. His appearance is brought to us by Welton's Tire Service. Twins off today, back tomorrow for matinee with the Astros, 2-day games before Houston gets out of town. I don't know if I'm obligated to ask you about the turbo bats. I'm sure you've been asked about it 100 times, but what do you make of what we've seen so far with those?
I didn't realize how long they've been around.
Yeah, me either.
I was asking one of the clubhouse guys, and he said this is not something new, that the bat manufacturers have been doing this for over 10 years. I had no idea about that. To me, it makes sense. And what Matt Borchelt, the Twins hitting coach, what he told me was if you look at where hitters most often swing and miss, it's not at the end of the bat. So if you can try and reduce some swing and miss and add some more mass where you most often and ideally want to hit the ball, then why not do that? So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not ready to say that's why the Yankees have hit 50 home runs so far this season, because the Yankees are good and they have home run hitters, and it maybe a couple have gone because of the bat. So be it. I don't know the science behind that, but the manufacturing and why you want to add more density and more mass to the areas ideally you want to hit the ball,
Right.
makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Just the fact that we've just woke up to it after a decade seems a bit crazy, no?
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I heard this on a podcast. I think it's a great line. This guy named Chandler Rome, who covers the athletics for the Athletic, had this great line. He's like, "What's going to happen with a torpedo bat and a submarine pitcher? I mean, are you going to have like a home run call with "You sunk my battleship"?
Yeah,
I mean, what's going to
that's
happen
awesome. That's good.
when you see that coming? Because I think that's a good point. Because it's going to happen. You're going to have a torpedo against
Correct.
a submarine. Right, torpedoes are going to win. You
That's
can throw
not-
all your countermeasures all you want, but torpedoes probably are going to win.
Speaking of the Athletics, I'm going off script here. I got to ask, how is baseball in a position where 2 teams are playing in AAA stadiums? I understand you had a natural disaster in Tampa, but it's not good, Cory, man. I love the game, but the fact that 2 teams are playing in minor league stadiums is bad.
I'm with you, and I don't know what you could do with the Rays. And I'm with you. That situation, I mean, Tropicana Field was destroyed. I mean, the roof was destroyed, and their future in general to play in St. Petersburg moving forward, the lease is up after 2027, and they were supposed to have a new stadium. That's not happening now. So I don't know what that means for the future of where the Rays, if they even stay in Florida, if they move or what have you. So I don't mind, because it is what it is. I think they're going to have a hard time getting games in, because in about a month, it's going to rain every afternoon and into the early evening hours. So they're going to have a hard time getting games in. And the Twins go there, I think, in May now. They go there in May. They were supposed to go there in July, and they flipped that series. So now the Rays come to town for July 4th. And the Twins go to Tampa in May. In terms of the Oakland situation, I mean, their owner This was all preventable.
Yep.
This was all preventable a long time ago, but the owner just he just doesn't care. And Trevor May, ended his career with the A's, and he's not at all shy about holding back about his feelings of Oakland ownership and now Sacramento ownership. And so it's embarrassing here a little bit, and seeing it happened with the Cubs game the other night. Seiya
Right.
Suzuki had to go to the bathroom, and he's got to sprint from the dugout, run out in the outfield, and go. It's things like that are going to be magnified even more because they're in the major league spotlight. So
Right.
it's embarrassing. I know they signed a 3-year lease. The A's did, to play in Sacramento with an option for a fourth year if they don't get going in Vegas. Like, they have the land, but they haven't put shovels in the ground yet for that stadium in Vegas. So until that happens, I'm not sure that Vegas is definitely going to happen. It seems like that's where it's going. But until they start
Right.
actual construction on that stadium, Dom, who knows?
Well, it's I think it's 310 down the left field line. I mean,
Yeah,
what are we doing? I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, well, I don't know what Houston is. I mean, Houston can't be much different than
Yeah.
that, right? I mean, so the dimensions are one thing, that's fine, but it's just, yeah, I mean, it's just seeing what's going on there at the turf field that they have there. It's going to be used every single day. With the AAA team is still playing there, so is that place going to hold up for all that action? With the constant work that is going to be happening on those fields, in the clubhouse, in the stadium, is all that going to hold up with both a minor league team and a big league team using that facility every day?
I got to ask. I know for people that were wondering where were you on the call Wednesday. Obviously, it was the great tribute to Bob Uecker. Give us a little glimpse into what that was like and to be there on Wednesday.
Yeah, it was a really neat event, and I'm so grateful to be invited, and I'm glad I went. I would have regretted not going, and so I'm grateful that the Twins allowed me to go, and for the Brewers to include me was really special. It was an incredible night. It was in this theater in downtown Milwaukee, Dom, and it was about 600 people that were part of that night, and Bob Costas hosted that.
Wow.
And what it was they kind of made it like a Tonight Show, whereas Bob Costas played the role of Johnny Carson. And for those that remember, Euchre was a fixture on the Tonight Show. And when Johnny Carson passed away, he told the former president of NBC Sports, Dick Ebersol, that his two favorite guests were Don Rickles and Bob Euchre. And so Costas played the role of Carson, and it was about a 2.5 hour event, and we took a trip around the bases, and every base represented a part of Bob's life.
Mm.
And there were chairs up on the stage, and they had different people from those eras to talk about their experiences with Bob and share some stories. So the first trip was Bob when he played in the 60s for the Milwaukee Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals. And Joe Torre, Hall of Famer Joe Torre, was Bob's roommate in St. Louis and one of his best friends. So Joe Torre was up there with former Commissioner Bud Selig, and then the longtime owner of the Brewers, of course. And then, so Torre and Selig are sharing stories about what it was like with Bob as a player, and then how the whole broadcasting thing started. And then the second trip was Bob as a Hollywood icon and celebrity, and there were two cast members from the Belvedere show that were up there talking
That's
about what it was
awesome.
like with Bob. And then the next turn was about Bob's broadcasting career. Al Michaels was up there, Pat Hughes was up there, and then Jeff Levering, his longtime partner these last 10 years. So sharing great stories. And then coming home, it was how Bob was beloved long after his career was over, but how the current players welcomed him, accepted him, and wanted him to be part of the team. So Christian Yelich was on the stage, the owner of the team, Mark Attanasio, was on the
Mm.
stage, the manager, Pat Murphy, was on the stage. And then the last part, as you touched home plate, Bob had 4 kids. Sadly, 2 passed away earlier, but his oldest living son, Bob Jr., spoke, and that kind of hit everybody pretty hard there at the end.
Mm.
So it was an amazing night. The production quality was impeccable with great videos and pictures and music and stories. So it was a great night. a night filled with laughter and tears and emotion. But as many said in that room, he's gone, but he's going to be with us
Oh,
forever. And he's going to pop up in my mind. He does every day. I carry the Brewers players are all wearing a special patch. And I was lucky enough to get one of those patches. So I keep it on my scorecard
that's
every
awesome.
day. It's kind of right there at the top. So I've got that with me. And we go to Milwaukee in May, and that's going to be tough. I know that's going to be hard, going into that series, but he would hate all this attention. He
Yeah.
would hate it. He would hate it, but for that man, I think it's the right thing to do.
That's a great story and a great way to end our visit this week. Appreciate the time as always. Enjoy your off day, and we'll see you next week, okay?
All right, Dom, be good, buddy.
There he goes. Cory Provus, voice of the Twins. They're back in action tomorrow. You can watch it on twins.tv. I subscribed. I know plenty of others have done it as well. The broadcasts look great. Yesterday, we didn't have time to get into it. The different angles they have. We'll make sure we have some time for that with Cory next week, because once they start playing a few more games at home, we get some video of that because it looks really cool. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. UND's new hockey coach, Dane Jackson, will join us here about taking over in Grand Forks. That's coming up when we return on Hot Mic on a busy Friday right after this.